Super Tuesday is upon us, and as 14 states go to the poll, California carries a lot more weight than the others. CBS News reporter Musadiq Bidar joining me now with a look at where the race stands. Thanks so much for taking the time. I know you've spent time with all of the campaigns, so today is like the culmination of what, your last year?
It really is. It all comes down today. California this year, being early on Super Tuesday, has a lot more influence on this election, and a lot of voters that I've been talking to about are excited for this day, and we'll get a chance to see where the candidates are at the end of the night.
Yeah, it's absolutely been exciting because, yeah, we've largely been ignored by most of the presidential candidates, besides being what they say California is the ATM of the Democratic Party. They come here to get cash and then leave. But yeah, they have spent time here, and we do have the results of a new CBS News poll.
Yes.
Want to pull that up for you because it shows at this point in California, Biden significantly ahead. What do you make of that?
Well, Senator Sanders actually at
31%
there. He's been consistently leading the polls in California. His campaign has been here longer than anybody else. He has spent more time here, 24 days in this state campaigning. That's 10 more days than Vice President Joe Biden. And his campaign, their 23 offices are spread across smaller communities, they say in communities that are typically underrepresented in national politics. And that's something they're hoping will pay off for them today because they have embedded their organizers there. A lot of their organizers come from these communities who were local leaders, worked on other political measures, and now they're using the campaign as a vehicle to get these voices and engage communities at the national level.
All right, does it say anything about California voters that, people would be tending more toward a Bernie Sanders candidacy?
Well, one thing that we're going to pay attention with the Sanders campaign is their outreach to Latino communities. The Latino community make up about 30% of all eligible voters in California. Their team has been making a big play for them all year long, trying to bring them out and engage them in this process, make sure that they are involved. And a big reason for his support in that poll is because of young Latino voters who have mobilized and try to get people within their own communities to come out and engage and support the senator. So that's something. The turnout among that community is supposed to be in record numbers this year, and we'll be keeping an eye on that.
And he did very well with that group in Nevada, so we'll see how things end up today. And what about Biden, of course, big showing in South Carolina. Were you just at this campaign event he was holding in Oakland?
I was, yes. He came in at a diner, shook some hands, met with some voters. There were a lot of people there.
It looked like a crush of people.
It really was. And a lot of people couldn't get inside, so they were waiting outside the window, taking pictures, trying to take peeks in. There were also some protesters who were out there, and also on the other side of the street, supporters from Senator Sanders. But the thing about Vice President Biden is that we're going to have to see if that momentum, that bump out of South Carolina makes a difference for him here in California. In that poll of ours that you just showed, only 9% of California voters said the results out of South Carolina will be a major factor in their decision. Now, the other group we're going to keep an eye on are the so-called perfect voters, voters who have participated in the last 5 elections, but this year so far in early voting, they've held on to their ballots. They wanted to see what's going to happen in some of these other early states. There have only been 40% of those voters who have submitted their ballots. In the last 2 elections, they were upwards of 90%. So there's a huge portion of them who haven't participated, and that's something that could be a good sign for Vice President Biden.
Okay, and I know a lot of people have been complaining about the fact that, somebody that they may have voted for already in a vote-by-mail situation, that person's dropped out. Now my vote doesn't count. That's been frustrating. But before we go, I want to talk a little bit about, obviously, Elizabeth Warren and Mike Bloomberg. What kind of shots do they have here in California?
Well, Michael Bloomberg, as you know, has been spending a lot of money in the state in advertising. He has the biggest staff, over 300 staffers who have been here. And the one thing they're focusing on, the campaign tells me that when they tell voters about his record, about the issues he stands for, they usually do really well. So the issues they've been focusing on, healthcare, gun violence, climate change, and homelessness, all issues that voters in California, according to polls, according to interviews we've done, say are important to them. And when they say they talk to voters about these issues, it makes a difference. Just last week, they held a press conference with supporters in San Francisco to talk about gun violence. His longtime partner was here to talk about women's issues. So while he hasn't been in the state since early February, he's sent surrogates here, and his campaign has been holding events all over.
We've been seeing the commercials.
We have been. And Senator Warren herself was in Los Angeles yesterday. She held an event. Her team earlier this month sent surrogates. Secretary Julian Castro was actually in San Francisco. window. And so it's going to be an interesting night as all of this plays out.
All right, it sure is. Musadiq Bidar, we appreciate your insight into all of this. And of course, be sure to check out our online voter guide. Head to kpix.com/campaign2020 to find your polling place and all of the information on the primary contest and ballot issues in your area.